There are many mysteries in the world. And when there are mysteries, there's a lot of energy that's put out to try to solve the mystery. And then when they solve the mystery, they want to understand the origination of those mysteries. Well, today's mystery we're going to focus on is lupus. The conversation we're going to have today is a serious conversation, but it's a conversation of hope and happiness. Timeka Griffin, who is a lupus thriver, is going to explain to you life with lupus, how to be a thriver with family, friends, and just in life. Now, I hope that you take the time to take some notes and find out how you can be a contributor to help solve this mystery and get more people to thrive and survive and move forward while having lupus. So, with that being said, let's go. And today on Voices, I have an episode and a topic that's near and dear to my heart. It affects many people in the world, but it specifically affects my family. Very important people in my family. Get your attention and my attention on the things that we probably should know more about. Today joining us is Timeka, and she is going to give us information about lupus. I think this is a very important thing to know about going into the holiday season, but any season. And I think she's going to give you a great deal of information. So, Timeka, thank you for being here. And I like to say to everyone, no one can give a better introduction for themselves than themselves. So if you would introduce yourself and let the
Yeah,
people know who's listening.
thank you. Thank you, Louis. My name is Timeka Griffin. I am a lupus thriver. I'm 51 years old. I'm a mom of two sons, RJ, who's 24, Ryan, who's 19. I am married to Robert Griffin for the past, I think, 26 years. 25 or 26, because RJ is 24, so going on 26. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. A native of Brooklyn, New York, and moved to Newark, New Jersey, and have been in Charlotte now for 25 years.
That's awesome. And it's interesting because just on a quick thing, I lived in Charlotte as well with you, and
Mm-hmm.
you gave me the greatest introduction to the city. You were like, sort of the big sister, second mom for me. So you made me
Oh,
enjoy Charlotte even more when I was there. So I'm excited when I come back to visit.
well, that's awesome. I'm glad it was a good experience for you. We still enjoy Charlotte 25 years later. So,
Yeah, well, it's a much different city than when you came there. So I'm sure you have appreciated the growth that's come with it.
oh, yeah.
Now you made a mention about something that I think is important. Now I'm going to ask what lupus is, but you specifically said you are a thriver, and I think when you first gave me information about lupus, I thought that was an absolutely marvelous thing. That the lupus, I'm not sure who created the Lupus Foundation or whoever comes up with the support system, because it's a beautiful name. So can you explain why the lupus warriors are called thrivers?
Well, you often hear people say they're a survivor. When you survive something, yes, you've gotten through that thing. But when you thrive, that means you're continuing to live your life to the best of your ability with whatever disease that you have been diagnosed with. So that's why we like to say thrive, because we still want to kind of live our best life in spite of whatever that may be for that person. So thriving is just more of a, as you said, a warrior, type position that we take with battling this disease instead of surviving it, thriving it.
And so it begs the most direct question. So what exactly is lupus, and how does someone get lupus?
Well, lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease. It causes inflammation, which can damage major organs such as the heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your skin, and brain. But lupus has many different symptoms, so it affects each person differently. So among the most common symptoms for people who are diagnosed with lupus is extreme fatigue and body aches. Lupus is unpredictable because it's a disease of flares, which means when your symptoms worsen, you feel ill, and remissions, when your symptoms improve, you feel better. Lupus can range from a mild case of lupus to life-threatening. but symptoms usually can be managed, with proper treatment. Lupus is not contagious, so you cannot catch lupus from someone, or you cannot give lupus to anyone. And lupus is not like or related to cancer or HIV. So it's something that, probably I would dare to say that in the medical world, there may be some genetic markers. I wouldn't say hereditary markers, but genetic markers or predisposed markers for lupus. But you can, be diagnosed with lupus even if you take a certain medicine. It will give you certain symptoms while you're on that medicine. So lupus is called the mysterious disease because science is still trying to figure out how and why and what causes it.
Wow, that's amazing, because the thing, if you think about it, you're taking medicine for some one-off thing, and then you
Mm-hmm.
find out later that you have lupus, and you just kind of wonder, like, well, how did that happen? So it's kind of it makes it that much more, not only a question mark, but scary,
Yeah.
because you do, I don't know, I guess you kind of wonder, well, what did you do wrong sometimes? Because you look at life and you're like, well, not even necessarily wrong, but why me, right?
Right.
And,
Exactly.
and so with that, I think it's important to understand. You said about body ache and fatigue. How does that affect your lifestyle? Because I feel like, you probably had a specific lifestyle that you were living, and then
Yeah.
bang, like, okay, you've been diagnosed with lupus, and I'm guessing it's sort of where you all of a sudden started feeling fatigued a lot, and then you have achy things, and now you're like, whoa, what's going on? And you find that out. How does it affect your lifestyle?
Well, here's the thing. I tell people this all the time, even when I, go out and speak to others making awareness of lupus. I feel like I had lupus since maybe middle school or high school. I was just never diagnosed with it.
Oh, wow.
I experienced things back then that now are making sense. Because coincidentally, with lupus, you cannot go into a doctor's office and they look at you and look at your tonsils, look down your throat. You say, and they go, yeah, you have lupus. No, you have to get tested by way of, blood work. That is the only way. So as a young child, middle school, I remember dealing with feeling tired sometimes, feeling achy, hair loss, running a fever for no reason at all, going to the doctor, and they're just saying, oh, it's just a little fever spell, maybe a virus, and they'll give me something. I remember this as a middle schooler, very specifically. And then in high school, I remember dealing with some hair loss, and then at some point a little weight gain and a weight loss, just always feeling kind of tired, having to perk myself up. And then in college, with my studying and sometimes cramming and just wanting to sleep, I slept a lot, and I had to keep myself awake, for different things. So as I got older and started looking back on symptoms that I had, as a middle schooler, a high schooler, and then a college student, I feel like I've had lupus for quite some time. I was just never properly diagnosed.
Oh, wow.
So to answer your question, as far as how does it change your life with fatigue, drastically. Because here's the thing, if you have this week planned or even a day plan, and you get up in the morning and you can't stand on your right foot, which has happened to me plenty of times,
Wow.
or I can't seem to really wake myself up, or I feel like a Mack truck has run over me and I know the day before I did absolutely nothing, then I have to change those plans because I can't function. If I don't feel well, if I can't walk, if I'm achy, if I feel like I have the flu. Because a lot of people that I come across say for them sometimes lupus feels like you just don't feel well. You may feel like you're catching the flu. So just imagine feeling like that and trying to run through your day. And it really affected me with the type of work I did, because I worked for the federal government for many years, and I had just got promoted to this great position to be a detention officer. And that's when I got diagnosed with lupus, and it totally turned my world upside down.
Well, I can imagine because I mean, you're a mom, you're married, you have a family, you're working, and then I can't even imagine what that would be like. I mean, so with that, like, what kind of uh, research has been done to sort of find the best treatments? Because I'm sure there are treatments to work with it, but then what kind of research are they doing to kind of advance that to help kind of find it faster?
Well, sadly enough, we just received maybe, and don't totally quote me on this, I think it was maybe in 2011, maybe. Let's go 2010, 2011. Lupus thrivers have just received a drug that is just solely for lupus called Benlysta. Okay. And it's a drug that you can get by way of infusion or injection. Now, that is the first drug that was designated just for lupus in 50 years when it came out,
Wow.
sometime 2010, 2011. Before that, it was prednisone. In the lupus community, we call that the wonder drug because, you know, that fights inflammation. That's an anti-inflammatory drug, prednisone.
Okay.
But on the other hand, it has these horrible side effects, you know. So the drug that we have now as far as research is prednisone. And, you know, we're running with that. But unfortunately, it's not for everyone. And when I say it's not for everyone, that means that you it's really for someone who has lupus, but it's not really affecting major organs, so to speak. You
Okay.
just, you have lupus, and you know, it's, you take this drug and it's supposed to like put your symptoms in remission to the point where you almost feel like you don't have it. And then also with this drug, I say it's not for everyone, it's because, you know, when you have a new drug, you have clinical trials. Well, sadly enough, a lot of African Americans don't participate in these clinical trials. So when they were giving the results of this drug and how well it works, it wasn't based on, you know, many African American.
Now
So
that's a question also because I know, for instance, sickle cell and there's certain diseases that affect African Americans more so than others. Is
mm,
lupus one of those? I guess diseases it would be the correct way to say it.
well, lupus is actually, it's funny. 90% of those diagnosed with lupus are women. Okay, let me just start
Oh,
there.
wow. Okay.
Between the ages of 15 and 44. But lupus can also, you know, occur in children, teens, and men. African Americans, we develop lupus at a younger age, and the disease may be more severe for us uh, than the general population. So, as many as 1 in 250 African American women will develop lupus. So, thus to my point, when I told you I was pretty sure I had lupus when I was younger. You know, I just got diagnosed as an adult. And then with Hispanics and Latinos, um, lupus develops at a younger age, and the disease may be more severe for them, like in the general population. And
Oh,
oddly enough, lupus is much more common in Native Americans than in other ethnic groups, and may occur in some tribes, and nearly 10 times more often than the general population. So, and here's another point: lupus is more common in almost all Asian American ethnic groups, no
really?
matter their heritage in their general population. So it's kind of really spread out. But my personal journey with lupus, I come across a lot of Caucasians with lupus.
Okay. And
Yep.
that's interesting because I know sometimes it's the sort of the genetic markers of ethnic groups that causes that, but it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that you're saying that most uh, it it happens in all ethnic groupings, but there's a greater prevalence in the minority groups, and
Yes.
so that may say something as well as far as the research goes. So that actually becomes a little concerning when you say most of the TET trials are not on sort of minorities. So
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
that it feels like that may be sort of uh, a backwards way, but I mean, they're still trying, and I still think that matters. So it leads me to
Yeah.
the next point of awareness. So
Hmm.
again, when people first learn about diseases, they don't know anything about it. They automatically assume being contagious, which you've covered, but then
Hmm.
they just really don't know how to support that person. For
Yeah.
instance, a friend of mine, and you know them as well, my friend
Hmm.
Al, his
Yeah.
mother has lupus, and like I didn't know what it was. Every time I saw his mom, she was fine to me. Like I never
Yeah.
saw her have any problems or anything like that. But every
Hmm.
now and then she would be like away, and I wouldn't really ask any questions. I just ask, is your mom okay? But it's interesting to say, well, how do you develop awareness and increase the awareness to help the people who are thriving?
Right. Yeah, and that was totally me when I first got diagnosed. First of all, I didn't know what it was. And coincidentally, I think the week before I got diagnosed, I never forget, I was reading a Essence magazine. And I was reading about an article about this woman talking about her struggle with lupus. Read the article and I was like, oh, that's so sad. What is lupus? Didn't give it another thought. And then
Wow.
shortly thereafter, I'm diagnosed with lupus. So, of course, I was petrified and I didn't know what to do. And I was in such a crisis when I got diagnosed. I wasn't thinking about resources and support. When I first got diagnosed, I spent 3 months in the hospital.
Wow.
So, and mind you, I had only been married for 8 months. In 8 months into my marriage, diagnosed with lupus in the hospital for 3 months. But while I was in the hospital, my aunt, Trisella, was in California at the time, and she um, took the initiation of finding out what lupus was and finding a support group for me, finding a foundation. I mean, she did all the legwork. You know how she is.
I do.
So,
I do.
so she, when I was kind of feeling a little better, once I got out the hospital, she said, listen, now you're out the hospital. This is what you need to do to connect. There's a foundation for this disease. You can go meet with people who are like you and you can talk about it, and they have different things. If she wouldn't have done that, I don't know if I would have taken that step, because I think I had PTSD for being in the hospital for 3 months.
I believe that. I do.
So, but yeah, a person who first finds out, of course, hopefully they have some sort of support system or tribe around them, to kind of help them find some sort of resource, which was, found for me. And I found it in the Lupus Foundation. And coincidentally, I didn't join like a Lupus Foundation in New Jersey. Like I said, once I got out of the hospital, I was just focusing on just trying to be better, trying to be a wife, trying to just get myself together. But when I moved to Charlotte, I plugged right in to the local Lupus Foundation office.
And so you kind of gave an example, and so you even kind of timelined, the emotions and the feelings. So what would be your opinion on a successful support system for someone who is diagnosed with lupus?
I think a successful support system is basically anyone who is going to understand, not understand, maybe try to understand and empathize or sympathize with what you're going through. Because my husband, I love him dearly. He is my best friend. He is my number one supporter.
Rob is
Okay.
good people. I agree. He's good people.
Yes, he is a good guy. He stuck with me. But he'll never truly understand what I'm dealing with because he doesn't have lupus. But what makes it so great with him is that he is there for me. He sympathizes, he empathizes, he knows, okay, he knows my triggers, he knows if I'm looking a little crazy. He'll listen to me even if I'm talking gibberish or saying the same thing over and over again. Sometimes he's watched me cry like a baby because I don't understand why this is happening to me. So I think a good support system is someone who is going to genuinely be there for you no matter what. Sometimes not say anything at all,
Right.
or
Yeah.
sometimes, talk you off that, proverbial ledge. But someone who's just going to be there for you, listen to you, maybe take you to your doctor visits. And that's like your close circle. But as far as support, I strongly recommend, like, support groups. I mean, we have support groups for everything. So there is a support group for lupus. And I tell you what, I love my husband, my children, my family. Everybody really is there for me when I'm not doing well. But when you walk in a room with people who have symptoms or have a disease just like you, it's a relief that I cannot even explain.
Oh, I understand. And I hate the word tribalism does get sort of a negative connotation, but in this is the tribe you want. Like, that's the type
Yes.
of tribe that you're trying to have. You
Yes.
actually may have mentioned something that, if you could touch on a little bit, is your kids. So you obviously you have children,
Yes.
and how did you train them? Because I can't even imagine being a little kid, and mommy or daddy says, hey, mommy has this thing. And now
Yes.
they don't understand stuff. So as they grow older, they start to understand. And your boys are great guys. So, it's amazing to see how they had to grow up with that, and they still are
Yes.
living with it, which is good. So I think how did you train them to sort of become uh, a, a great support system as well?
Well, my oldest, of course, he was the oldest, so he kind of experienced it first. And we talked about this one day. We were just talking, and I was asking him, what are some memories, that you have from your childhood of you and I? He said, well, for one, I remember you always smelling like cocoa butter. Okay, sidebar. I'm like, is that a compliment? Yes, it is. I said, okay. He said, he said, the second thing I remember is you always being in the room and daddy always saying, mommy's not feeling good. She's taking a nap. Or mommy's not feeling good. Let's not disturb her. Or mommy's not feeling good. We're going to go to McDonald's. He says, so I just always remember the door being closed. Your room door being closed when you weren't feeling well.
Right.
He said, but when you were feeling well, you were great. Now, when he got, I guess, I'm going to say, I dare to say fourth grade, third or fourth grade, we had a talk with him, and I explained to him, that, mommy has something called lupus, and it sometimes makes me tired, and sometimes I can't do all the things I want to do with you, or sometimes I may not be able to take you to school, because I was a stay-at-home mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom since 1999. So, I had to explain to him, because those are very important years, because I was very active. PTA, muffins with mom, volunteering in the classroom. So we kind of explained to him, this is why mommy's tired and things like that, or why, friends' moms had to pick him up and bring him home, So he kind of got it as he got older. But my youngest, Ryan, he didn't have a clue. Clueless.
I love Ryan. I love Ryan.
What? You're sick, and I said, well, I have lupus. What's that? You don't seem like you're sick. So it's like he didn't really get it, because he didn't get the brunt of it, until he was a little bit older. And one time I had a very bad flare where a friend had to take both of them for about 3 or 4 days. And then that's when Ryan got it, and we sat down and we had the conversation with him. But it's just a learning, it's on the job training with them, on the job training. And my husband, he's a great communicator, and that helps, because he will talk to them about it on their level, at the time. I think if my husband wasn't the great communicator that he is, then it really would have been an issue, and I try to involve them in things. Sometimes I would take them with me to the doctor so they can understand and see my day, and see what mommy deals with, involve them in different events that I do with the foundation, or, sometimes I would have speaking engagements, and I would take them with me, like, see, this is what I do, this is what I do. So.
And that makes sense. So you actually mentioned the foundation, and so that as far as like advocacy groups, like what kind of scope do they do? Because I'm guessing they do something along fundraising, education. So what are the scope or maybe the events or types of advocacy they do specifically for lupus?
Well, the Lupus Foundation, it's definitely dedicated to improving the quality of life for all people affected by lupus. And they do that through programs, research, education, and advocacy. So some of the things that they do are program services. And that's a really good tool because they give people like us materials for lupus. They connect us with healthcare professionals. They give us authoritative sources of information on lupus, and they have a lot of educational symposiums. Like every year we have what is called a lupus summit, and that's where we get together every October, either in Raleigh or Charlotte, and we'll have the best of the best doctors in the field come and speak with us, like the one we just had in October last month. We actually had a doctor from Charleston, the medical, medical.
University of South Carolina?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He came and he spoke and he was talking about some research that he's doing that he's very passionate about. And we always have like the best of the best rheumatologists, any type of specialist. And then we also have, for people who may not be as mobile, the foundation offers expert teleconferences. So some folks don't even have to leave their home. They just dial in and they will dial in on whatever series that we're having. Like actually today we're having a series on joint replacement with lupus, and you can just dial in, and then in December we'll have something with lupus and overlapping diseases. And not to mention the support groups that we have. The foundation that is here is for the entire state of North Carolina. So the office that's here in Charlotte takes care of the entire state. So with that being said, we have support groups in almost every county. Of course, Mecklenburg County and Wake, Goldsboro, Forsyth County. So we're kind of covering, we have like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, about 10 support groups going on in the state of North Carolina. That's something people can attend once a month and get that support.
And so with that support, the one event that I know that I remember, and I'm pretty sure the Lupus Foundation does it, is the Lupus Walk, which is, I think is in May normally, right?
Yeah, it fluctuates. It fluctuates. This year it's going to be in May, but last year was in April.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But what I love about it is that, well, first, it's aware where it's actually like a party. And I love that part. But the second part is the actual walk is interesting because they have 2 tracks. And I know I always do the long track because I just get excited by that because I like doing things like that. But I think it's really fun because when was that started, and what's the purpose of the Lupus Walk itself?
Well, the Lupus Walk, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say I've been to almost every walk. I've been doing it for over 10 years. So let's just say give or take 10 plus years it started. And that is for fundraising and making awareness. Like you said, it's like a big party, but we want to also make people aware of lupus. So we do it by way of the walk. But that's a big fundraiser. We usually normally we do our walks in 3 different locations. Of course, we do Charlotte, and then we have a big walk in Raleigh, and then we have one in Fayetteville.
Okay.
So it's like a circuit, and then we fundraise for that because that helps keep the foundation going. The foundation is nonprofit, so all these services that are offered to lupus thrivers are absolutely free. So you have to keep the ship going. It's a very small staff of 3. But you would think that it was the very large staff the way, the walk is produced in the production that they do for it. But that's one of our major fundraisers. Another fundraiser we have is called the Lupus Mardi Gras Gala. And we have that in Charlotte every year. And that's coming up, I guess that's in February of 2020. And that's a very big fundraiser. I think the tickets are about $150 a person. We go down to Founders Hall, downtown Charlotte. Everyone dresses up, looking wonderful. Everyone wears a mask. But most importantly, again, we're sharing awareness. And then we have donors, people who are very vested and, want to see, a cure and want to support the research. So that's one of our big fundraisers too. And then in August, we also do a golf tournament in Valentine. So we kind of try to do fundraisers in categories like, things that people like to do. Some people who are into, exercising, healthy, let's get out here, that's the walk. The Mardi Gras, you want to dress up, you want to have a good time, that's the Mardi Gras. The golf links, if you're a golfer. So we try to hit all aspects, but also sharing awareness and raising funds.
And what I find really interesting is you mentioned the Mardi Gras, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Mardi Gras are the colors, the purple and the gold and the green. Mm-hmm. And then when I remember the first time I did the Lupus Walk with you, it was all purple, and your team is called Team Purple Hearts. So yes. What's the reason behind the purple? Because sort of when I think purple, I think like royalty. So what is the reason for it?
I don't know who said the color for lupus was purple. That's a very good question. I don't know. I don't know where that purple came from, because the symbol color is purple, and then the symbol for lupus is a butterfly.
And why is it a butterfly?
Well, because for some who have lupus, they will get what is called a butterfly rash on the front of their face. It'll go under your cheeks, and it'll come around your face. It'll skip the bridge of your nose. And if you look at it closely, it looks like a butterfly.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And many years ago, when lupus was first, discovered and people were being diagnosed, and they still refer to it as the wolf.
The wolf?
The wolf. I don't know how that occurred. I think it's something like, a wolf can sneak up on you. And,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so I think that was, but we kind of not sway away from the wolf because that's kind of scary, But,
yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. You think about it. It's a sneaky disease. It's mysterious. It sneaks up on you. And once it has you, it has you. But we like the butterfly. It's a little bit more gentler.
Yeah, and so I asked it because you mentioned doctors and the research. So have you gotten any, or what's the prognosis or the forecast that researchers have found that lets like the progress they're making towards, well, obviously they have a new drug, but like sort of helping maybe diagnose earlier or help relieve that? Well, what's the forecast on that? Do you know?
Not exactly. It's always a moving train with moving parts. Just recently when we went to the symposium, I did come across a company that is doing very detailed research on something called lupus nephritis, which is lupus in your kidneys. And they have a whole program pamphlet here having to share with people the awareness of understanding lupus nephritis. And with that, they offer, for you to receive news updates, newsletters about their research, and as well as clinical trials. So it's just really, I really don't have any new information. The doctor who came from Charleston, he was talking about some things that he saw with some research that he had done. But I mean, of course, on the cutting edge to a point, because they still can't really nail it down, to prevent it, so to speak.
Okay, so two more questions. The first one is if someone is looking for information, so what are the websites or the contact information that a person
Okay.
could go to find out more about lupus and potentially help with the fundraising and research process?
Yeah, not a problem. Well, I belong to the Lupus Foundation of North Carolina, so if you want to get information, you can go to www.lupusnc.org. So
Okay.
that's www.lupusnc.org. And if you want to email the foundation, you can do that at info@lupusnc.org. And then there is a our national office is in Washington, D.C. And I'm not sure of that website, so I don't want to give you the wrong link, but I'm sure your guests can Google
Yeah, and they
the
can probably
national.
connect through the North Carolina site probably as well.
Yes, you can go that way. And then we have a telephone number as well.
Okay.
A toll-free number is 877-849-8271, and that's for the Lupus Foundation North Carolina chapter office.
Okay, and so I'll make sure I'm going to list all that on there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate question is a final thought for you, and I love to have all the guests do the final thought because it can be about anything. It can be about the topic that we just discussed, or anything that's really on your heart. The reason I wanted to do this episode now is we're at the time where people are being with their family, and you just want to kind of spread that cheer and appreciation of your family. So I felt like you would be a great guest for this. And as we're family, I just want to show the appreciation of knowing that you're a thriver. So any final thoughts you have about lupus or anything else, I will leave the last word to you. And I again thank you for participating.
Yes, thank you. Well, I will say this is a mantra that I have. I have lupus, but lupus does not have me. So I will say this. Lupus has changed my life, but a lot of people look at me a little different when I say this. But I'm grateful for lupus. This is, a season of being thankful and grateful. And two of my most prized possessions are my children. And the reason why I say I'm grateful for lupus is lupus made me slow down. I was on a fast track of becoming a corporate attorney in New York City. Never to leave the tri-state area. So me being diagnosed with lupus slowed me down enough to smell the roses, so to speak. I got married. I might not have never met my husband if I wasn't diagnosed with lupus.
Wow.
So it made me slow down. It changed, my lifestyle. When I first got diagnosed, I went to see an iridologist. That's a doctor who studies like how sick or well you are through the pupils of your eyes. And I was newly diagnosed, and he said, "You want to live longer with this disease?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "You need to leave New York. You need to leave New Jersey, Connecticut, get out of the tri-state area, move to North Carolina." I was like, North Carolina. And this is how I know this was all predestined for me. This was a journey for me. Because after he told me that, I kid you not, a week or two later, my husband comes to me and says, "My job just made me an offer to move to North Carolina. Do you want to relocate?"
Wow.
Mind blowing. Okay. So again, I say, you know, I have lupus, but lupus doesn't have me. If it wasn't for lupus, I wouldn't be in beautiful North Carolina in the beautiful city of Charlotte. I probably wouldn't have been married to my husband, and I definitely wouldn't have had these boys that I was forbidden to have. So it made my life slow down. It changed all my plans, but I will say for the better.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
And I'm thankful for it.